It is always a thing of joy when a man and a woman are joined in holy matrimony. Such joyful and memorable occasions often attract the presence of families, friends, and loved ones who usually gather to partake and share in the happiness of the newly wedded couple. The main prayer for such a joyous occasion is that the couple will live with each other happily forever and be blessed with wonderful kids and all the good things of life. However, for some couples, such prayers and societal expectations of living happily ever after quickly turn into a mirage as the marriage, sooner than later, starts witnessing cracks. The cracks can become so widened and result into mental and physical abuses among spouses.
Behavior is majorly in the unconscious. The unconscious and the subconscious are about 95% of our entire being. So only 5% is what we see outside at the action. So inside this subconscious, we have the triggers, we have the thought processes, we have the emotions, we have the feelings, we have the belief. So in between all those, there are issues that has happened before that is currently happening that can trigger the person to becoming aggressive.
It's because of all these things that you are taking, drugs, all those things. Immediately they take the drugs, they will not know what they are doing.
Some have natural hot temper that they cannot control.
It is approximated that 1 in every 3 women suffers domestic violence in Nigeria. More often than not, women are the victims of abuse, but there have been occasions where men have been subject of abuses also. In February 2014, a youth pastor, Akolade Arowolo, was sentenced to death for murdering his wife in 2011. He was said to have stabbed his wife, who was a banker, to death. Also, a lawyer, Yewande Oyediran, bagged 7 years imprisonment for manslaughter in November 2017 by a high court sitting in Oyo State. She was said to have killed her husband with a knife. Similarly, in 2019, a high court sitting in Ikeja sentenced Lekan Shonde to death by hanging for beating his wife to death at his residence in Egbeda area of Lagos. In January 2020, Mariam Sanda, a nursing mother, was found guilty of killing her husband and was sentenced to death by hanging. These reported cases and many others that were not reported have been sources of concern to many Nigerians who feel that urgent steps must be taken to salvage the situation. The latest among the cases of domestic violence was the death of a gospel music minister, Osinachi Nwachukwu, who was alleged to have died as a result of the injuries she sustained from beating by her husband. This development had attracted condemnation from Nigerians across all religious divide and has intensified the clamor for couple separation if living together is no longer achievable.
Be conscious of eternity. Don't live your life anyhow. Oh, heaven is real, hell is real. Come to Jesus today.
Many have continued to wonder why people remain in abusive relationships rather than walking away. Some of the respondents who spoke with OSBC News said there's always a culture of shame for women that are divorced, adding that in some religions, divorced women are never allowed to hold leadership positions. A pastor and woman and child advocate, Mrs. Aduke Obelawo, believed the covenant of life is greater than the covenant of marriage. She maintained that couples in abusive relationships can always separate from each other and take care of their children from afar. According to her, speaking out may be the most difficult thing for men who are being abused by their wives due to stigmatization and the fear of being ridiculed.
The best thing is to walk away because the covenant of life is greater than the covenant of marriage. You first need to be alive before you can keep any marriage. Any marriage that has become a threat to your life, you live to live.
The Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Talent, said it is regrettable that many states have adopted the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, but implementation remains the issue. She appealed to law enforcement agents to ensure full implementation of the law.
Incidents of domestic violence, which is on the increase on daily basis. It's not just about Ministry of Women Affairs or government to do one thing or the other. We have the laws in place. The VAP law is there. Most states, about 30 states, have domesticated the VAP law. But our problem is not domesticating these laws, but implementation. I'm appealing to the justice system. I'm appealing to the police. I'm appealing to all those. It's a chain that everyone should be committed and be a true ambassador in this fight. It is a fight to save lives. It is a fight. Women's issues are human rights issues.
Also speaking, the Osun State Coordinator of the National Human Rights Commission, Mr. Abayomi Ogundele, maintained that the agency is always ready to provide legal backings for any victim of domestic abuse.
Of intimidation, harassment by either of the party, the first thing to do is to make sure that you report to appropriate authority. In case you first of all report to the family members. But if the family members are not helping matters, the best is to go to the nearest police station, which is threat to life. Because Nigerian Constitution gives room that in Section 33, where there's right to life, you start from there because you need to protect your life rather than having something to, rather than cure, you need to prevent.
In the same vein, a humanitarian, Mrs. Ene Ede, said it is against the law for anyone to cover up abusers, as she called on Nigerians to be their brother's keeper and not treat domestic abuse as a family affair.
If you as a person, either you are related, associated, in any way that you are connected to somebody, either by blood or just by mere association or just observing, or you are within an environment and you see an abuse and you don't report, by the time they get to know, law enforcement agents, you are liable. And I know because the charges here, sometimes it is both financial and also term, the jail term.
The respondents were unanimous in their declaration that marriage is not a military profession where soldiers get honored when they die in active service, adding that it is always better to live and live. Oluchi Amuda, OSBC News.